Hey everybody, this is Dick and Mary, and Dick's going to tell us a little bit about a word from the author of the book Think and Grow Rich. Go ahead, Dick.
Thank you, Mary. We've already recorded, as you know, the first preface in the book, which is the publisher's preface. Now I would like you to know what Napoleon Hill had to say about the book that he was about to read. It's entitled A Word from the Author. And he says the following: in every chapter of this book, mention has been made of the money-making secret. I've got that underlined because it is indeed a secret, which has made fortunes for hundreds of exceedingly wealthy men, whom I have carefully analyzed over a long period of years. I'd like to replace that word men with persons. Probably more wealth is in the hands of women than men, I would think. So I'm going to read that last sentence again. This money-making secret has made fortunes for hundreds of exceedingly wealthy persons who I have carefully analyzed over a long period of years. This secret was brought to my attention by Andrew Carnegie more than half a century ago. This lovable old Scotsman carelessly tossed it into my mind when I was just a boy. Then he sat back in his chair with kind of a twinkle in his eye and watched carefully to see if I had brains enough to understand the full significance of what he had said to me. When he saw that I had grasped the idea, he asked if I would be willing to spend 20 years or more preparing myself to take it to the world, to men and women who, without the secret, might go through life as failures. I said I would, and with Mr. Carnegie's cooperation, I have kept my promise. This book contains the secret, which, after having been put into practice and tested by thousands of people in almost every walk of life, it was Mr. Carnegie's idea that the magic formula, which gave him a stupendous fortune, ought to be placed within the reach of people who do not have time to investigate how men make money. And it was his hope that I might test and demonstrate the soundness of this formula through the experience of men and women in every calling. Now, I've read that paragraph as if were one sentence, and I find it awkward. So I'm going to repeat this. This book contains the secret. After having been put into practical test by thousands of people in almost every walk of life, it was Mr. Carnegie's idea that the magic formula, which gave him a stupendous fortune, ought to be placed within the reach of people who do not have time to investigate how men make money. And it was his hope that I might test and demonstrate the soundness of the formula through the experience of men and women in every calling. He believed the formula should be taught in all public schools and colleges, and expressed the opinion that if it were properly taught, it would so revolutionize the entire educational system that the time spent in school could be reduced, at least by half. In the chapter on faith, you will read the astounding story of the organization of the giant United States Steel Corporation as it was conceived and carried out by one of the young men through whom Mr. Carnegie proved that his formula will work for all who are ready for it. This single application of the secret by Charles Schwab made him a huge fortune in both money and opportunity. Roughly speaking, this particular application of the formula was worth $600 million. Now, this book was written probably in the 30s initially, So we're talking about 600 million. You could probably make that billion in today's currency. These facts, and they are facts, are well known to almost everyone who knew Mr. Carnegie. To give you a fair idea of what the reading of this may bring to you is provided you know what it is that you want. That's key. I find in talking to people, and I ask them about their goals and specifically what it is they want, they can't be specific. They say, well, I want to be happy. I want to make a lot of money. You've got to know exactly what your goal is and set a time for achieving it. There are some other factors to it, but those two things are preeminent. The secret, to go on, was passed on to thousands of men and women who have used it for their special benefit, as Mr. Carnegie planned that they should. Some have made fortunes with it, others have used it successfully in creating harmony in their homes. The clergyman used it so effectively that it brought him an income upwards to $75,000 a year. Make that $750,000 a year in today's money. Further, Arthur Nash, a Cincinnati tailor, used his near bankrupt experience as a guinea pig on which to test the formula. The business came to life and made a fortune for its owners. It is still thriving, although Mr. Nash has gone. The experiment was so unique that newspapers, magazines gave it more than $1 million worth of laudatory publicity. In today's dollars, we're probably talking somewhere between $10 and $100 million. The secret was passed on to Stuart Austin Weir of Dallas, Texas. He was ready for it, so ready that he gave up his profession and studied law. Did he succeed? That story is told also. While serving as advertising manager of the LaSalle Extension University, when it was little more than a name, I had the privilege of seeing J.G. Chapline, president of the university, use this formula so effectively that he made LaSalle one of the great extension schools of the country, and it remains so today. The secret to which I refer has been mentioned no fewer than 100 times throughout this book. It has not been directly named, for it seems to work more successfully when it is merely uncovered and left in sight, where those who are ready and searching for it may pick it up. That is why Mr. Carnegie tossed it to me so quietly without giving me its specific name or being more direct. So if you are ready to put it to use, you will recognize this secret at least once in every chapter. I wish I might feel privileged to tell you how you will know if you're ready, but that would deprive you of much of the benefit that you'll receive when you make the discovery on your own. If you've ever been discouraged, if you've ever had difficulties to surmount, which took the very soul out of you, if you have tried and failed, if you were ever handicapped by illness or physical affliction, the story of my son's discovery and use of the Carnegie formula may prove to be the oasis in the desert of lost hope for which we have been searching. This secret was extensively used by President Woodrow Wilson during World War I. It was passed on to every soldier who fought in the war, carefully wrapped in the training received before going to the front. President Wilson told me it was a strong factor in raising the funds needed for the war. A peculiar thing about this subject is that those who once acquire it and use it find themselves literally swept on to success. If you doubt this, study the names of those who have used it. Wherever they've been mentioned, check their records for yourself in order to be convinced. Know that there is no such thing as something for nothing. The secret which to I refer cannot be had without a price. although the price is far less than its value. It cannot be had at any price by those who are not intentionally searching for it. It cannot be given away. It cannot be purchased for money, for the reason that it comes in two parts. One part is already in your possession of those who are ready for it. The secret serves equally well to all who are ready for it. Education has nothing to do with it. Long before I was born, the secret had found its way into the possession of Thomas A. Edison, and he used it so intelligently that he became the world's leading inventor, although he had but 3 months of schooling. The secret was passed on to Edwin C. Barnes, a business associate of Mr. Edison. He used it so effectively that although he was then making only $12,000 a year, he accumulated a great fortune and retired from active business while still a young man. You will find his story at the beginning of the first chapter. It should convince you that riches are not beyond your reach, that you can still be what you wish to be, that money, fame, recognition, and happiness can be had by all who are ready and determined to have these blessings. How do I know these things? You should have the answer before you finish the book. You may find it in the very first chapter or on the last page. While I was performing the 20-year task of research, which I had undertaken at Mr. Carney's request, I analyzed hundreds of well-known men, many of whom admitted that they had accumulated their vast fortunes through the aid of the Carnegie secret. Among these men were, now I'm looking at a list of about 50 names. I'm not going to read them all to you, but if we work together, you'll be getting the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and the ISBN number I'll read to you now, although it is on the first page of the next chapter. It is ISBN 978-0-449-21492-3. I'll repeat that. ISBN number 978-0-449-21492-3. Some of those names are Henry Form, John Wanamaker. I'm just going to pick out some that I know you'll be familiar with. George Eastman, Charles Schwab, Theodore Roosevelt, Albert Hubbard, Williams Jennings Bryan. A few more here. Mr. Gillette, King Gillette, Judge Daniel Wright, John Rockefeller, Thomas Edison, F.W. Woolworth, Colonel Robert A. Dollar from the Dollar Steamships Lines, Edwin Barnes, Clarence Darrow, Woodrow Wilson, William Howard Taft, Luther Burbank, Alexander Graham Bell, George Alexander, and Senator Jennings Randolph. That's quite a list. There are many more in recent years, Tony Robbins as an example, that have gone forward with these ideas. Now, these names represent but a small fraction of the hundreds of well-known Americans whose achievements, financial and otherwise, prove that those who understand and apply the Carnegie secret reach very high stations in life. I have never known anyone who aspired to use the secret who did not achieve noteworthy success in his chosen calling. I have never known any person to distinguish himself or to accumulate riches of any consequence without possession of the secret. From these two facts, I draw this conclusion that the secret is more important as a part of the knowledge essential for self-determination than any which one receives through what is popularly known as an education. What is education anyway? This has been answered in full detail. Somewhere as you read The Secret, to which I refer, it will jump out from the pages and stand boldly before you, if you are ready for it. When it appears, you will recognize it. Whether you receive the sign in the first or the last chapter, stop for a moment when it presents itself and turn down a glass, for that is the occasion that will well mark the most important turning point in your life. Remember, too, as you go through the book, that it deals with facts and not fiction. Its purpose being to convey a great universal truth through which all who are ready may learn what to do and how to do it. They will also receive the needed stimulus to make a start. And finally, as a final word of preparation before you begin the first chapter, I'd like to offer one brief suggestion. Again, I'm quoting the author, which may provide a clue by which the Carnegie secret may be recognized. It is this: all achievement, all earned riches have their beginning in an idea. If you are ready for this secret, you already possess one half of it. Therefore, you will readily recognize the other half the moment it reaches your mind. Signed by the author, Napoleon Hill.